Jupiter is holding something behind its back. The giant planet is trying to hide a dark shape in the curl of its storm clouds, turning slowly so the sun cannot light it up. It is a quiet, deliberate dance in the cold dark, and it just started minutes ago. We finally caught the giant planet in the act. If you want to uncover the real secret space is trying to hide, you need to stick with us. We dig into the actual science files, not just the loud rumors, so you can know the truth first. Make sure you subscribe to join the search for what is really out there. To understand why this discovery is so strange, we have to go back to the very beginning. For hundreds of years, humans looked up at the night sky and saw Jupiter as just a bright, slow-moving star. It was beautiful, but it seemed simple. That changed in the year 1610, when a man named Galileo Galilei pointed a new invention, a telescope, at that bright light. He did not just see a star, he saw a striped circle, and he saw 4 smaller lights circling around it. Those lights were moons. This was the first time anyone proved that not everything in the sky circled the Earth. It changed history, but it was only the first layer of the mystery. Jupiter is not just another planet. It is the giant guardian of our solar system. If you could hollow it out, you could fit over 1,300 planets the size of Earth inside it. It is mostly made of hydrogen and helium, the same gases that make stars burn. But Jupiter never caught fire. It is a failed star, a massive ball of swirling gas and liquid. It sits very far away from us, about 484 million miles from the Sun. To put that in perspective, if you drove a car at 60 miles per hour without ever stopping, it would take you over 900 years to get there. Light itself, the fastest thing in the universe, takes about 43 minutes just to travel from the Sun to Jupiter. For a long time, scientists thought they had Jupiter figured out. They knew it had a strong pull because it was so big. They knew it had a giant storm, the Great Red Spot, that had been spinning for hundreds of years. They sent probes to fly past it, taking pictures as they went. The Voyager missions in the 1970s flew by and showed us stunning details, but they were just tourists. They did not stop to study the planet up close. Scientists expected Jupiter to be a simple, if massive, ball of gas. They thought its gravity would be smooth and its insides would be neatly layered, like a cake. They believed the heavy stuff was in the middle and the light stuff was on top. That belief lasted until a machine named Juno came along. NASA launched the Juno spacecraft in 2011. It took 5 long years for it to fly through space to reach the giant planet. In 2016, it finally arrived and started circling Jupiter. But Juno did not just fly by. It went into a special orbit that took it right over the North and South poles, diving deep into the deadly radiation and magnetic fields. Juno was built to see through the clouds. It had tools to measure gravity, magnetism, and heat. It was on a mission to finally tell us what Jupiter was really made of, deep down in its hidden core. Scientists were excited, but they thought they mostly knew what Juno would find. This is where the story takes a turn into the unknown. Just recently, NASA received a burst of data from Juno. The spacecraft was making a close pass over the cloud tops, flying only about 2,600 miles above the swirling storms. As it flew, its gravity instruments were scanning the space just outside the planet's atmosphere. The instruments measure tiny changes in how things move. They can feel the invisible pull of mass. Scientists expected the data to show empty space, maybe a few tiny specks of dust. But that is not what the data said. Instead, the instruments found something solid, heavy, and very much there. It was an object, sitting right on the edge of Jupiter's main ring. A ring is a circle of dust and rocks that circles a planet, just like Saturn has, though Jupiter's ring is much darker and harder to see. This object was not a tiny speck of dust. It was big, and it was not supposed to be there. Here is the detail that people remember most. The object was sitting in a place called the Roche limit. This is a very special invisible line around a planet. Inside this line, the planet's gravity is so incredibly strong that it overpowers the physical strength of solid rock. If a moon or an asteroid crosses inside this line, the planet's gravity will literally tear it apart. The rocks are pulled harder on the side facing the planet than on the side facing away, and the rock just snaps. That is how planets get rings. The rocks are destroyed and spread out into a flat circle. Every scientist agreed that nothing solid could survive inside this line for long. But that is exactly where this object was, and it was not breaking apart. It was whole. Let's break down what scientists originally expected to find in this area. They expected that any large rock getting near Jupiter would be quickly shredded. They believed the area inside the Roche limit was a temporary graveyard for asteroids. A rock might wander in, but it would not last 1,000,000 years before being crushed into dust. They thought the only things surviving there would be microscopic particles, too small to be ripped apart. They also expected that any larger object would be moving incredibly fast, falling toward the planet to its doom. What they actually found was the complete opposite. The object was about 60 miles wide, which is roughly the size of a small moon. It was sitting right in the danger zone, perfectly intact. Not only that, but it was not falling. It was orbiting in a perfect, stable circle. It was like watching a glass vase sit happily in the middle of a tornado. Why does this gap matter? Because if our most basic rules of gravity and rock strength are wrong here, they might be wrong everywhere. This object proves that we do not fully understand how planets and rocks interact. It suggests that maybe the object is not made of normal rock, or maybe Jupiter's gravity behaves differently than we thought. Did you know that Jupiter's gravity is so strong it acts like a giant vacuum cleaner for the solar system? What do you think would happen if that invisible shield stopped working and this object flew out of orbit? Take a guess in the comments below, and if this kind of deep space mystery keeps you up at night, hit that subscribe button to stay with us. To understand how shocking this is, we have to look at what the object is made of. Scientists started looking at the data to figure out if it was ice, rock, or metal. They expected it to be a regular asteroid, maybe a piece of a dead comet. Most things in that area of space are leftover building blocks from when the solar system formed. They are usually made of ice and loose dirt, like dirty snowballs. Ice is weak and should break apart very easily under stress. But the gravity data told a different story. The object was incredibly dense. Density is how tightly packed the material is. A bucket of water is heavy, but a bucket of iron of the same size is much heavier, because iron is denser. This object was not a light, fluffy snowball. It was heavy, like solid metal. If it is made of metal, it changes everything. A metallic object that size should not exist in Jupiter's neighborhood. The solar system is supposed to have separated its materials long ago, with heavy metals sinking close to the sun to make planets like Earth, and light gases floating far away to make Jupiter. Finding a heavy metal rock next to a gas giant is like finding an iceberg in the desert. It does not fit the model. Before we look at what this object is doing right now, there is one more piece of the puzzle you need to hear. This is the part of the story that shifts from a simple anomaly to a true mystery. The object is not just sitting there quietly. Juno's magnetometer, a tool that measures magnetic fields, picked up something strange. Jupiter has the most powerful magnetic field of any planet in our solar system. It is about 20,000 times stronger than Earth's magnetic field. This field is dangerous. It traps charged particles from the sun and from volcanoes on Jupiter's moon Io, creating a massive, invisible bubble of deadly radiation. Anything made of metal that enters this bubble should react violently. The magnetic field should grab the metal, heat it up, and pull it out of orbit. Scientists expected this metal object to be glowing hot and spiraling out of control. The radiation should have been cooking it. They thought Juno would see sparks or bursts of energy coming from the rock as the magnetic field tore at it. But what they actually found was that the object was cold and stable. It was not being affected by the radiation at all. It was cutting through the magnetic field like a knife through water, leaving a strange, quiet hole in the radiation behind it. Why does this matter? Because an object that can ignore a magnetic field that strong is not normal. It suggests the object has its own magnetic field, one that is perfectly balanced to repel Jupiter's deadly radiation. Or, it suggests the object is made of a material we have never seen before, something that does not conduct electricity. If this object has its own magnetic shield, it might be a fragment of something much larger, something that once had a core like the Earth does. It could be a broken piece of an ancient planet that was destroyed long ago. This means the solar system might be full of hidden survivors, dead planets that left behind indestructible cores, wandering in the dark. This is not the first time Jupiter has surprised us with strange objects. In 1994, a comet named Shoemaker-Levy 9 crashed into Jupiter. But before it crashed, astronomers noticed something odd. The comet had been caught by Jupiter's gravity and broken into 21 pieces, like a string of pearls. Scientists expected the pieces to just fall in and burn up. They thought the thick atmosphere would swallow the impacts with barely a trace. What actually happened was violent. When the pieces hit, they left massive dark scars on the planet that were bigger than Earth itself. They were visible for months. It proved that Jupiter's clouds are not just soft gas, they are dense and violent. It also proved that Jupiter gets hit by things often. But this new object is not a comet. It is not breaking apart, and it is not falling in. It is staying put. This makes it more like the strange moons that orbit Jupiter, but it is too close to be a normal moon. Jupiter has 95 known moons. The biggest ones, like Ganymede and Callisto, orbit far out in safe, stable paths. The small ones, like Metis and Adrastea, orbit very close to the planet. They are small, and they are inside the danger zone, but they are tiny enough that Jupiter's gravity does not notice them much. They are just grains of sand. This new object is a boulder. It is massive enough that Jupiter's gravity should be destroying it, but it is just sitting there, ignoring the rules. NASA is facing a puzzle. They have a name for things like this. They call them temporary moons. These are rocks that get caught in a planet's orbit for a few years before escaping or crashing. But temporary moons are usually tiny asteroids, a few meters wide. They are hard to see and impossible to track for long. This object is 60 miles wide. That is not a temporary moon. That is a permanent feature. It is as if Jupiter has a hidden moon that we never noticed, sitting in the one spot where it should not be able to survive. The data is still coming in, and scientists are working around the clock to understand it. Here is what is happening right now. Juno is still orbiting Jupiter. Every 53 days it makes a close pass over the poles. Every time it passes this object, it takes more readings. The object is moving, but it is moving in a very strange way. It is not orbiting in the same direction as the other moons. Most of Jupiter's moons orbit in the same direction the planet spins. This is called prograde motion. It is the normal way things work in a solar system because everything formed from the same spinning disk of dust. If a moon orbits backward, against the spin of the planet, it is called retrograde. Retrograde moons are usually captured asteroids that wandered in from deep space. Scientists expected this object, if it was a captured asteroid, to be in a wild, tilted orbit. They thought it would be clearly an invader from outside the system. But what they found was that the object is orbiting almost perfectly flat, right on Jupiter's equator. That is the signature of something that was born with Jupiter. It means this object has been here since the beginning. It is not a visitor, it is a local. This makes the mystery even deeper. If it was born with Jupiter, why is it still there? 4 billion years of gravity should have pulled it in or pushed it out. The only way it could survive is if it formed somewhere else, got captured perfectly, and then somehow settled into a flat orbit. That process is almost impossible to explain with current physics. It would require a precise set of collisions and gravitational tugs that are so unlikely they should never happen. Yet, here it is. If you were flying past Jupiter in a spaceship, would you risk getting closer to this strange object, or would you run away? Tell us your choice in the comments, and be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep space stories that make you think. Let's talk about the size and scale of what we are dealing with. 60 miles wide sounds big, but in space, it is tiny. To put it in perspective, Earth's moon is about 2,100 miles wide. This object is only about 3% the size of our moon. But density matters more than size. If this object is made of solid iron or heavy metals, its mass, or the amount of stuff inside it, would be enormous. It would have a gravitational pull of its own. Juno's instruments felt that pull. As Juno flew by, its path was bent slightly by the object's gravity. It was a tiny bend, but measurable. By measuring that bend, scientists could calculate the object's mass. They found that it is much heavier than a normal asteroid of that size. A normal asteroid is mostly empty rock, full of cracks and holes. This object is solid. It is like a giant cannonball floating in space. This high density brings up a terrifying possibility. Where do you find solid metal objects in space? Usually, they come from the core of a shattered planet. In the early solar system, there were many small planets. They crashed into each other constantly. When a planet is destroyed, its heavy metal core might be blown into space. These metal blobs drift for billions of years. If one of them got caught by Jupiter, it would explain the density. But it does not explain the stable orbit. A metal core wandering in from deep space would not settle into a perfect flat circle. It would be in a wild, tilted orbit. The fact that this object is both heavy and in a perfect orbit means something else is going on. Some scientists wonder if this object is somehow creating its own stability. We know that Jupiter's gravity is constantly changing. The planet is not solid. It is a fluid ball of gas. The gravity you feel on one side of Jupiter is slightly different from the gravity on the other side. The Great Red Spot, for instance, is a massive storm that changes the gravity around it. Scientists expected the object to be tossed around by these changing gravity waves. They thought it would wobble or drift. But what they found is that the object is perfectly locked. It sits in a gravitational sweet spot, a place where the forces perfectly balance out. This is called a Lagrange point, or a gravitational resonance. But those spots are usually occupied by other things, and they are usually not inside the Roche limit. This object has found a way to ride the chaotic gravity of Jupiter like a surfer riding a wave, never falling. Let's look at the timeline. This object was likely there when Galileo first looked through his telescope in 1610. It was there when the Voyager probes flew by in the 1970s. It was there when the Galileo orbiter circled Jupiter in the 1990s. Why didn't we see it before? The answer is simple. It is dark. The object does not reflect light well. It is in a region of space that is very dark, close to Jupiter's shadow. Also, it is small enough that you need a very powerful telescope to see it. The previous missions were not looking for something like this. They were looking at the big moons and the clouds. Juno is the first probe equipped with tools sensitive enough to feel its gravity and map its shape through the darkness. It is like finding a hidden rock in a dark room by feeling for it with your hands instead of using your eyes. The fact that it is dark also tells us something about its makeup. Ice is very shiny. It reflects a lot of sunlight. Rock is duller. Metal can be shiny if it is polished, but in space, metal gets coated in dust and radiation damage, making it dark. This object is as dark as coal. That suggests it is either covered in a thick layer of space dust, or it is made of a dark, heavy material. There is a material in space called magnetite. It is a naturally magnetic iron ore. If this object is a giant ball of magnetite, it would be heavy, dark, and it would have its own magnetic field. That would explain why it can survive in Jupiter's radiation zone. It has a natural shield. But where would a 60-mile-wide ball of magnetite come from? Such things are not supposed to form near Jupiter. The only way to get that much metal in one place is inside a planet. The Earth has a massive core of iron and nickel, but it is buried under thousands of miles of rock. To find a bare metal core floating in space, you need a planet to be completely destroyed. The early solar system was a violent place. There was a theory that a fifth gas giant existed billions of years ago, and it was ejected from the solar system by Jupiter's gravity. Could this object be a piece of that lost planet? Could it be a fragment of a world that was torn apart and thrown into the dark? There is another possibility, one that is even harder to believe. Some scientists think this object might not be a natural rock at all. They are not saying it is an alien spaceship, but they are saying it behaves like a piece of advanced engineering. In space, we have found objects that look like they were machined. There is an asteroid called Psyche, which NASA is visiting right now, that is almost entirely metal. Scientists think Psyche is a broken planet core. But this object near Jupiter is different. It is not just a lump of metal. Its gravity signature suggests it is layered. It has a heavy outside and an even heavier inside. That is the opposite of how planets form. Planets have heavy insides and lighter outsides. For an object to have a heavy shell, it must have been hollowed out or constructed. Nature does not build hollow metal balls. If the object is hollow, it changes the math. A hollow shell is much weaker than a solid rock. It should be even easier for Jupiter to crush it. The fact that it is surviving means it must have some internal structure holding it together, something stronger than rock. Could it be made of metal alloys? Could it be a surviving fragment from a collision between two massive bodies? The data is not clear yet. What is clear is that this object is unlike anything we have cataloged in our solar system. It is a one-of-a-kind anomaly, and it is sitting right next to the biggest planet we have. This next part is where the story moves from the past into the present. We are not just talking about history anymore. This is a live event. Juno is flying through the space near this object right now. The spacecraft is aging. It has been in Jupiter's harsh radiation for years, and its systems are degrading. Every close pass is a risk. NASA knows that Juno might not survive many more orbits. The pressure is on to gather as much data as possible before the spacecraft finally dies. The scientists are working day and night, trying to get one more clear reading of the object's gravity, one more magnetic scan. They know that once Juno is gone, we might not send another probe there for decades. This object could be lost again, swallowed by the dark, and we would never know what it really is. What is happening right now is a race against time and nature. The object itself is moving. Its orbit is stable, but it is slowly drifting. It is creeping closer to Jupiter. Every year it gets a tiny bit nearer to the planet. Scientists expected it to just stay put or get pulled in quickly. But what they are seeing is a slow, deliberate spiral. It is like it is testing the waters, slowly sinking into the planet's gravity well. At this rate, it will not hit Jupiter for thousands of years. But the fact that it is moving at all means it is not permanently stable. It is a temporary guest that has overstayed its welcome. Why is it moving? Some unseen force is pushing it. It could be the solar wind, or it could be the drag from Jupiter's thin ring of dust, or it could be something else entirely, something pulling it from the inside. This is the detail that you will want to remember. Every time this object passes behind Jupiter, from our point of view, something strange happens to Jupiter's radio signals. Jupiter naturally emits radio waves. It acts like a giant radio station in space. Scientists have been listening to these signals for decades. They are caused by the planet's magnetic field spinning. When this dark object passes behind Jupiter, the radio signals change. They get quieter, or they shift in pitch. It is like the object is blocking or absorbing the radio waves. That should not happen if the object is just a rock. Rocks do not block radio waves. Metal does. If the object is blocking Jupiter's radio waves, it means it is acting like a giant antenna or a shield. It is interfering with the planet itself. If you were in charge of NASA, what would you do to study this object next? Would you send a lander to land on it, or a probe to orbit it? Let us know your plan in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you can be part of the conversation when the next data comes in. Let's zoom out for a moment and think about what this means for the rest of the solar system. Jupiter is often called the vacuum cleaner of the solar system. Its massive gravity pulls in comets and asteroids that might otherwise hit Earth. We saw this in 1994 with Shoemaker-Levy 9. Jupiter took a hit that could have wiped out life on our planet. Because of this, scientists watch Jupiter closely. They want to know what is flying around out there. Finding this strange, dense, dark object so close to Jupiter is a reminder that our solar system is not fully mapped. There are big things hiding in the dark. If this object is a piece of a destroyed planet, it means the early solar system was even more violent than we thought. There might have been many planets that got smashed to pieces, and their remains are still floating around, waiting to be found. Some of those remains might be on a collision course with Earth. We like to think we know what is out there, that we have counted all the dangerous rocks. But this 60-mile-wide object was sitting right next to a well-studied planet, and we missed it for 400 years. How many more are out there? How many dark, heavy objects are drifting in the space between Mars and Jupiter, or out in the deep dark beyond Neptune? This discovery connects to something we all care about, our safety. The universe is not a quiet, empty place. It is a shooting gallery. Jupiter acts as our shield, but it is also a trap. It catches things and holds them. This object might have been wandering through space for billions of years before Jupiter grabbed it. If Jupiter had not grabbed it, where would it be now? It might have ended up crossing Earth's orbit. A 60-mile-wide metal object hitting Earth would not just destroy a city, it would crack the planet's crust, boil the oceans, and end all life. It would be worse than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. The fact that it is stuck near Jupiter is a good thing for us, but it is also a warning. Space is full of heavy, invisible threats. There is also a deeper, more emotional side to this. Human curiosity is a powerful thing. We built a machine, we launched it into the void, and we flew it millions of miles to look at a giant ball of gas. And in doing so, we found something we did not expect. We found a mystery. This object is a puzzle piece from the dawn of our solar system. It holds the history of how worlds are made and how they are destroyed. By studying it, we are learning about our own origins. The iron in this object might be the same iron that flows in Earth's core, creating the magnetic field that protects us from the sun. The story of this rock is the story of us. The future of this mystery is uncertain. NASA is not talking about it publicly very much. They are careful. They want to be sure before they make big announcements. But the data is real. The gravity anomaly is there. The magnetic disturbance is there. The dark shape is there. Scientists are running simulations, trying to figure out how a solid metal object can survive inside the Roche limit. They are testing new theories of gravity and material strength. Some of them think the object might be covered in a thick layer of a strange material that makes it slippery to gravity. Others think it might be a natural nuclear reactor, generating heat that pushes back against Jupiter's pull. The truth is, nobody knows yet. What we do know is that space is still full of surprises. We think we understand the rules. We think we know how gravity works and how planets form. But then we look a little closer, and we find something that breaks all the rules. This object near Jupiter is a reminder that the universe is bigger, older, and stranger than we can imagine. It is a reminder that we are small, but our minds are powerful enough to reach out and touch the stars. The search for truth is never over. There is always another layer to uncover, another shadow to light up. If this kind of deep, real science mystery makes you want to learn more, you need to be part of our community. Subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss the next update on this strange object. Turn on notifications so you are the first to know when NASA releases more data. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think this object is a natural rock, a piece of a dead planet, or something else entirely? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you know someone who loves space mysteries, share this video with them right now. Let's get more people looking up at the stars and asking questions. Thank you for watching and for wondering with us.